Hi everyone, welcome back again to my YouTube channel. So in today's video we're going to be looking at how I went about the making of this bustier dress that actually looks like a Victorian corset because of the bones. I am going to be paying more attention to the yoke area. I'm going to be showing you guys specifically how to go about yoke with nets, because I know a lot of people actually struggle with this a lot. So if this is something you're interested in, keep on watching and let's get started. So guys, the patterns I want to use for this tutorial, I have already drafted them out. If you want to go ahead and draft yours, I have a detailed video already on the channel that I posted about 4 weeks ago that you can check, and everything I have here is what I taught in that particular video. But the yoke was very different, so today we are going to be focusing on the yoke, and we'll be using a mesh, which is also refers to as a net. So that's what this is about. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out these patterns now on my actual fabric. Now this is the fabric I want to use for the body. It is crepe, and I've already gone ahead to iron hairstay inside. That's why you see that the inside is white. So I'm just placing my pattern papers on it, and I'm just going to go ahead and pin it down, and I will cut it out with about 1/2 inch stitching allowance all the way around. Now for the important part of this tutorial, which is the mesh, this is what we are going to be working with here, and you will notice that it is my skin color. So when you're getting your own net, make sure the color is your skin color. So guys, you notice that this area here is very stretchy, more than what I have on this other length. So because of that, I'm going to be folding the stretchy part. That's the area that is going to be the body part. So I have folded a piece, this mesh already, into two. Now I folded it again. That means I have it here into 4 places. Now this means that I actually want to double this particular mesh. You can actually use 1 layer if you want to, but for this one I want to use 2 layers, and this is optional. Okay, you can just use 1 piece, and you know that if you use 1 piece, it looks more like your skin, like it looks more skin like than when you join more pieces together. But this one we are using 2 layers. Okay, so I folded into 2 again, making it 4. By the time we turn it over and open it up, it's just going to be 2 pieces. Okay, so I'm just arranging my yoke piece on it as you see me doing like this. Make sure to arrange it properly, because this net is so hard to work with, but just arrange it properly and then go ahead and cut it out. Now as I'm editing this, I realized that I didn't add any stitching allowance to the net, but you are supposed to add stitching allowance to it only if the area you are using is the very stretchy part. But even though you need to add at least a little bit of stitching allowance to it. So this is the front yoke. And now for the back yoke as well, I folded my fabric again. So I'm going to go ahead and place the yoke. As you can see, I'll place it here like this, and I'm also going to go ahead and just pin it down and cut it out as well.
So many times that I miss you. I know how to call when I want to. Now you got way bigger issues.
So guys, we are going to now leave the yokes aside for now and work on the body part first. We already iron hairstay to it, so there is no need for all of that again. Now if you watch that video that I told you guys about in the beginning of this tutorial, I showed you guys how to go about the cutting of the wadding to use and pad the bustier. So I'm not going to be going in details in this particular one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pad this bustier. I'm just placing the wadding that I've cut out for the center part on the center piece, and I'm just going ahead to pin it down. And I'm going to do the same thing for the side pieces as well. So I would advise that you please go ahead and check out that video, because I did all of these things I'm doing here in that particular video. This one is just very focused on the yoke area. So now I will go ahead and start arranging all the 3 pieces together and pin them down on the side. just like you see me doing like this, the bustier area, and of course you do it all the way to the end. Everything here is in the other video like I've explained before, so I'm going to be stitching it down here, and of course I will do the same thing on this other side as well. So just go ahead and pin it down like you see me doing like this. So I'll be heading over to the sewing machine to stitch down this area here and here. So when you're stitching it down, you want to make sure that you're using the same stitching allowance that you gave when you were cutting it out, so that it doesn't become too big or too small. So after I was done stitching it down, this is what I have. I'm just going to go ahead and make notches around the curved areas and then iron everything out. Now for the curved area, I'm going to be using my tailor's ham. This is something I normally use and I made it myself, so it's nothing serious. So I just place it under the area I want to iron, the curved area, and I just go ahead and iron it out. Make sure you're using a steam iron, and yeah, just go ahead and iron it out. So guys, this is it after I was done ironing it out. Now this is the part that you need to pay serious attention to. So this is the mesh. Remember I said we are using 2 layers. So you see this is one, and then this is the second one here. Okay, if you can actually use one of them if you want to, it doesn't have to be, it's not compulsory for you to use 2. And again, if you want it to be, if you're someone who wants to like be more covered, you can use like 3 layers, but I won't advise anything more than 3 layers. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and stitch the neckline, turn it over and iron it out. So guys, this part is totally optional. Now for this particular bustier, I decided to just draw lines and place line bones on the line. So I drew one on the center and some other ones on the sides. This is going to kind of make it start looking like a Victorian corset, which actually it isn't, but it just actually gives it like a nice fit. So I went ahead to just stitch my bones, as you can see, just the same way you would stitch your line bone. Now coming back to the net, the mesh that I've stitched down around the neckline, you can see it here. I am going ahead to iron it out now. I will advise you, please, if you do not have an iron that you can regulate properly, don't do this directly. You can use another fabric, place another fabric on top of the mesh and iron it out. Now I reduced my heat so much to the lowest for me to be able to do this. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and stitch this area down. Now back to the bustier, you can see what it looks like after I was done and stitching bones to the areas, all the lines that I made. I didn't stitch any bone to like the major bustier line. Okay, so it's just the side, the center, just to give it a nice fit. So I'm just going ahead to iron it out properly like you see me doing like this, and once you're done, it's going to look really nice like what I have here. Now I've stitched around this area like I said I was going to do on the mesh. This is going to make it easier for you to stitch down since you are using a double piece. Now I'm going to place this mesh in the center of the curved area of my bustier, just like you see me doing like this, just the sweetheart area, and I'm going to arrange it very properly and start pinning it down. Now this is the part where a lot of people have issues. This is the part where like a lot of us actually miss it. I used to hate working with mesh a lot, but as I continue to work with it, I realized that you have to just be very patient with the process, because this thing is very soft and it's really very easy to just get spots, and just everything will just like get spots in front of you. So I pinned down one side now, and you can continue to pin down the other side if you want to, but I don't really like to pin this down when I want to stitch it down. I only pinned it down now just for the purpose of this tutorial. So on the sewing machine, I just basically removed all the pins, and I'm just going to arrange the centers together and place my sewing machine on it like this from the center and stitch one side first. So I'll stitch one side first like you see me doing like this. Just go ahead and stitch down one side from the center all the way to the other end like this, and then after that you can now stitch the other side towards the middle. You have to be very careful with this, and this time around you'll be able to arrange the other side that you have already stitched down to get it to look like really nice in the center. It's not as easy as it's looking right now. This thing is a little bit stressful, but you can see the result after I was done stitching it down. So now after making the first stitch, you might notice that your yoke is actually bending. Can you see what is happening on this particular one? But it's fine. When you wear it on your body, you realize that it will actually sit perfectly. All those bends will actually go away. So now I've stitched down my lining piece just like I've done on the actual fabric, although the lining piece doesn't have any padding or anything. So from the center, we're going to start attaching the lining piece. But now on the lining, when you're stitching it down, you want to make sure that you're pushing this net away. This is where a lot of people also have issues, because by the time you're trying to stitch the lining to the actual fabric, you might catch into the net, and that will just spoil the whole process. Okay, so you can see how I'm stitching this down now. I'm making sure to push the net away while I'm stitching it down. So just go ahead and do the same thing. Be very patient with this. Don't rush anything, guys.
Okay, all of them done they notice. I'm not joking. All my guys, them know me. Since '06, I've been writing this story.
So now I've stitched the lining to one side. So can you see how nice it's looking? So I'll go ahead and do the same thing for the other side now. Now I'll be starting from the middle. So from the middle, I'll continue to the other end. And once I was done, I went ahead to make a top stitch. When you're making a top stitch, also make sure that you're pushing the net away, because if you do not do all of these things I'm saying, guys, you will end up wasting the whole process, because if your machine sew into the net just a little bit, that is all for that net. Okay, so once I was done stitching the lining, I went ahead to iron it out. So this is what it's looking like right now. You can see how nice it's looking. Now if you want to add ready-made cup to your bustier area, you can actually go ahead and just tack it inside now at this point. This way you will have a fuller bustier. That's if you want something like that, but if you don't want, you can totally remove it. Okay, so now I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and stitch down the sides. Just turn everything over and stitch down the sides here. I'll stitch it down here and do the same thing for this side as well. So guys, it's all stitched down now. The sides are stitched down, and this is basically all for the front right now. We are going to go ahead and work on the back. So guys, the back is actually very easy. Now from the center, you're going to come in by 1 inch. This is the allowance that we gave for our loops at the back, so it's 1 inch. So I just came in by 1 inch. I marked the 1 inch points. Now I have the lining and the actual fabric here, so I'll remove the lining. I'm going to place the yoke that I've also stitched down in the center here, and place this other yoke here as well. Okay, so you're going to place them on the points we made, and then cover it up with your lining. So this is very easy. So the yoke is kind of like in the middle of the lining and the actual fabric. So you go ahead and just pin all 3 pieces together, and it's going to look something like this. So I'll do the same thing for this side. Cover it up with the lining, go ahead and pin it down. So now on the sewing machine, we are going to make a first stitch like you see me doing like this, and then you're going to push all the stitching allowance towards the lining part. Make sure the stitching allowance is towards the lining, and make sure that the net is not in the way when you're doing this. So just make sure, check everything very properly, and make a top stitch towards the lining, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. So once you're through with this, you're going to go ahead and have it looking like this. You will see how nice it's looking already. Can you see? So I'm going to go ahead and iron this out for the 2 pieces. And after which I went ahead to use my bias to create the loops for the back. I also have a full tutorial on the channel on how to go about loops. So after this, I'm just going to cover everything in like this with the lining, and I will go ahead and stitch it down here. So after making the stitch, I did it on both sides. I've turned it over to the right side, and it's looking nice and clean. Let's go back to the main focus, which is the yoke. Now we're going to be turning the yoke of the front and the back together, so that it will like finish up this whole process. So you're going to place all the 4 pieces that you're going to have for the front and back yoke together, and you're going to pick one of the 4 of them like you see me doing like this to cover every other piece. This way you're going to have a very nice finishing on the armhole area. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to just arrange it. When you're working with netting, guys, It is so hard because you are holding the net and it's just going the way it wants to go. That's how they are. So you have to just be very patient with it and just take it as it goes. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin it down here. And of course, I will do the same thing for the other side. So once you're done stitching it down, you're going to notice that it actually looks very nice. But let me go ahead and do the same thing for the other side, and then we'll go ahead and stitch this together on the sewing machine. So on the sewing machine again, you have to be very careful because the pieces are going to want to be moving away from where you want them to be. So you can see me trying so hard to just place them in place. As I'm sewing along, I'm using my hand to just arrange everything out so you can see what I'm doing here. So go ahead and do the same thing for the both parts, and then trim off the excesses on the shoulder. So just go ahead and trim it out, and then when you open it up, it's going to look really nice and clean. So this is the final look of my shoulders after I was done joining it down. So once you're done, you can now cut out the sleeve that you want to place and place it on it. So I went ahead to place this bustier on my body form. I just pinned it down for now, and also just pinned the applique around the neckline, and this is what it looks like. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next one.